This is ODAT Chat, your instant connection to recovery and community, one day at a time. This podcast may contain strong language, sexual content, and spiritual truth. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey friends, this is Arlena, and welcome to another episode of the ODAT Chat podcast. This is a podcast where I interview people about how to recover from addiction, primarily from drugs and alcohol, but other addictions as well. We largely focus on unpacking the issues that cause addiction and how it affects us, but also on solutions, including the 12 steps, all kinds of books, ideas, and teachings that contribute to long-term recovery. My hope is that through these interviews, you hear that no matter where you come from or what you have been through, there is hope that things can get better and that people do change and that you feel inspired to reach for your dreams. So, in case you didn't know, there are 3 ways to listen to the podcast. Obviously, you found one way, but to give you some options, you can either subscribe on iTunes, you can subscribe on Stitcher, I think that's for Android, or you can download right from the website at odatchat.com, and that's ODAAT chat.com. To make it even easier for you, you can actually enter your email address on the website, and I'll deliver episodes right to your inbox. So today's episode, I'm a little nervous about this one. It actually has not only the potential to get me a little bit of controversy, but maybe get banned from iTunes. Listen, I deliberated with those I trust on how much to censor this episode, but in the end, I decided not to censor it at all. I may also make an edited version available later, but I haven't really decided. And listen, the reason for all this positioning is that today's guest is with my new friend Jeff, and he has Tourette's syndrome. So if you're not familiar, Tourette's presents as uncontrollable outbursts of like swear words or jerky body movements or tics. And in this case, Jeff has the swear word kind. And listen, while I can comfortably swear like a sailor, there's a couple words that make me cringe a little bit. And one is the N-word. And that's the word, among others, that Jeff has. So what I decided to do was to go ahead and publish the episode as is. So please consider this fair warning if you are easily offended. Okay, so there you have it. Jeff was kind enough to come on the podcast to share his story, which is ultimately a story of not only struggle, but of triumph. He has lived with Tourette's all his life. I think said he was, just a small boy when it started to show up. Jeff has suffered through addiction. He actually lost his wife of 19 years about a year ago. I think he said maybe a year and a half. But now he's in recovery for nearly a year. And I'm so grateful to Jeff for being brave enough to share his whole story. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode with Jeff. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Absolutely. This is going to be fun. Yeah, totally. This is my meeting for today.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, what we'll do is I'll just ask you a few warm-up questions and then we'll kind of get into the really good stuff. So,
sure.
Awesome.
Go for it.
Okay. So tell me, where did you grow up?
Grew up in Campbell.
Okay.
I lived in California my whole life. I was born back east, but my parents moved out here when I was like 6 weeks old.
Oh, just a baby.
Yeah, totally. So there was no car seats, nothing like that. My dad had just bought a brand new, 1969 Le Mans.
Nice.
My mom was born and raised in Pittsburgh. My dad went to Penn State College. Both of my grandfathers used to work for U.S. Steel. Even though I wasn't born in Pittsburgh, I was born, outside State College in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. So
lots of history in Pittsburgh, huh?
Oh yeah. So I think that pretty much qualifies me as a Steelers fan. So
Yes, very qualified. Nice.
Yeah.
And what do you do professionally?
I'm on disability right now for probably the past 5.5, 6 years.
Okay.
For my Tourette's, I have Tourette's syndrome.
Okay.
Other people may know it as Tourette's.
Oh, okay.
It's a neurological disorder. It's involuntary tics, noises, verbal words.
Okay.
You know, don't worry, I'm not going to sit here and curse you out, okay? So,
I know we were talking before, and I was like,
see, there was a little bark noise right there.
yeah. I know. I was saying earlier, just let it fly.
Yeah, exactly. Just,
you do whatever you
well,
want.
You're home. Yeah.
Yeah, and is Tourette something that you've always had, or is it something that develops later on in life?
It can develop later on in life. I mean, I've heard stories where late teenagers or people in their early 20s will develop signs of Tourette's and then be diagnosed with it. I was diagnosed when I was 5 years old.
Oh, when you were little.
Yeah. So growing up with Tourette's in elementary school, especially in elementary school back then, you know, kids are brutal at that age. You know, they don't understand. They tease and make fun of you and stuff and everything. And so half the year I would just go home crying. You know, it was terrible.
Awful. How did your parents handle it?
Oh, my mom worked at the school, elementary
did?
school, as a teacher's aide. I think that's whatever you call it now. Teacher's aide, yeah. So
she saw it firsthand.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. So, and you know, the kids and it wasn't as well known back then as it is now. I mean, they make movies and have poke fun at Tourette's. In movies and stuff, and I don't take offense to it at all. I think it's freaking hilarious. I love it, you know.
Do you?
Yeah, and I do. And I tell, me and my friends, we all mess with each other, you know. I mean, are we allowed to curse on this podcast or not? I just ask, I don't know.
Well, I was going to try to keep this one clean. I have a friend who's...
No, I know. I was just going to say, because me and my friends mess with each other. We F with each other, and we make fun of my Tourette's, you know.
Do you?
Yeah.
You joke around with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got to have a good sense of humor.
Yeah, totally. If you have something like I have, like Tourette's or some other kind of disorder, disease kind of thing, and you can't poke fun at it or make fun of yourself, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure it's challenging though. And I mean, as a kid, do you feel like maybe having Tourette's affected your self-esteem to the point where you felt like you needed to start using and drinking? Are the two related, do you think?
No.
No, they're completely
not. Yeah,
separate.
completely different. Yeah, even though like Tourette's is a very compulsive disorder. I mean, there was a time, way back when everything was threes. Like I would have to turn up the volume on the TV 3 times, all the way real loud, or my stereo 1, 2, 3, really, really. It was just like it was a habit. It was one of my tics, but it wasn't a verbal tic or a motion tic, you know, like with my arm or my head or something like that, you know. But in junior high, no, they're totally separate.
I just mean that like so like for me growing up, I had self-esteem issues, right? And for whatever reason, so my self-esteem issues, I kind of feel led me to drinking and I use drugs and alcohol to cope with my feelings, right? So I was thinking, you know, if you're growing up as a kid and struggling with not being accepted by your peers or facing criticism, that the drugs and alcohol might be a coping mechanism.
I don't see it in my story as that being the way it happened.
No.
Junior high was a little bit better. Not that my Tourette's got better, more that people junior high, it was 7th and 8th grade back then. They call it middle school now. They don't even call it junior high anymore.
Yeah.
That's how freaking old I am. So
Stop saying that. You're not the one. We're probably the same age.
I don't know. You look younger than me, but I'm 48. So.
Oh, we're the same age.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. So junior high was okay. I learned to kind of. I guess you could say stand up for myself.
Okay.
You know, and I kind of
you found your voice.
Well, not really in that, but I would. It's kind of strange. From 7th grade up until about my senior year in high school, there would always be somebody that was particularly making fun of me or poking at me in some way or another, one way or another, and I just learned. I didn't really learn to fight, but I just kind of stood up for myself and said, they're not going to do this anymore to me. So I would, probably, cold cock them in the locker room or something like that, and then the brawl would break out. And
you would get into physical fights?
Physical fights, yeah. And that's how in junior high, it wasn't, but I kind of made it a point like I said, from 7th grade to 12th grade, make it a point to get like one fight a year. And that's probably just how it, probably that's the maximum it probably did too, was once a year.
Right.
Just so kind of people would know, hey, Jeff's not putting up with any of your crap, that kind of,
good for you.
And, Jeff's not putting up with any more of BS and from this person or that person. So,
but no, that's good. I don't know. That seems like a pretty good coping skill to me.
Well, I haven't gotten a fight since 12th grade, so I said let's hope for that. And with my Tourette's, some tics compared to like when I pray to my higher power, which I like to call God or Lord. Okay.
Are you Christian?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Presbyterian.
Oh, I grew up Presbyterian too. So you grew up in Campbell?
Right, correct.
What high school did you go to?
Blackford.
Blackford.
It's not Blackford anymore. But,
okay, so local boy and then you're...
Yeah. So
got it.
when I do some of my prayer, I say in my prayer that I would like to be able to recognize my character defects or my shortcomings. And when they creep up and rear their heads, I want to be able to notice them and recognize those character defects of my alcoholism from what I've learned in the big book.
Sure.
The Alcoholics Anonymous big book, not the Bible big book.
Right.
People think that too,
All right, yeah.
So anyway,
just 500 of our closest friends.
It's all good,
This is only going worldwide. Do you know we have like...
Worldwide? Oh, shoot. Shit.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so even though you had some people that were mean to you, did you have friends that...
Yeah, I did. Okay. I made more friends in junior high than I did in elementary school.
Yeah.
And then in high school, actually, I became very popular. Didn't
nice.
I, Cindy? Yeah, because I was the only one in school with Tourette's. And everybody knew me for that.
Yeah, and you had enough self-esteem that you weren't going to let people be mean to
bully
you.
me around, that kind of thing.
Around.
Yeah,
which engenders respect. We teach people how to treat us, right? So you taught them it wasn't okay to do that to you.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I guess. That's the way I dealt with it,
Okay.
And,
so you became popular in high school.
Yeah, I did become pretty popular. I was friends with the cheerleaders and the jocks and the nerds and the stoners and everybody. And they, I would be walking down and, junior or senior, walking down the hallway, and a freshman would walk by and say, "Hey, Jeff, what's up?" I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" Good. And I like,
you didn't know
who the heck is this freshman? Who's this kid? Yeah. But I didn't know him, but he knew me because everybody knew me for my Tourette's, And like I say, getting back to a little bit of prayer when I talk about my shortcomings or my character defects, how I want to recognize those, that they will pop up and come and go like others. It's similar to, when I pray, I say it's similar to my Tourette's. Okay. Because some tics will come and go and get replaced by others.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like when you
were little, did you have physical
I was little,
ones?
Yeah, I mean, it still happens. Like once in a while, when I'm really, I don't know what it is, but once in a while I'll bite my lip.
Oh,
like that, you know, and I'll get it where it gets a really big gash inside, and it turns and starts bleeding, and then I'm not doing it now, but I did it for a while there, and that's a tick that kind of comes and goes from time to time.
So some ticks come and go.
Currently, that's the newest one within the past couple of years. Yeah.
Okay, but other ones, when you were little, you had more physical ticks, or were they verbal?
They've all been pretty much both verbal
and physical.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, heartburn. That's okay. So, so I was comparing the character defects and shortcomings to my Tourette's, that they creep up, and I want to be able to recognize my Tourette's. I recognize right away.
Yeah.
But
that's not really a character defect. That's just.
My Tourette's.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that. I'm just saying, but it's similar to like the character defects in the program, in the AA program.
Right. Yeah.
That creep up.
Yeah.
I'll be able to recognize a character defect or shortcoming, deal with it on life's terms to the best of my ability, and then it'll go away, and then maybe another one will come up.
I know. It's like whack-a-mole.
Like what?
Whack-a-mole, your little character defects popping up. I feel like...
One of those arcade games. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, exactly.
Something pops up, and I address it, deal with it, and then something else comes up, and it just feels like there's... but that's like the human condition, right? You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So,
okay. Yeah. I mean, the one tick that's stuck with, the verbal tic that stuck with me the longest throughout my years of having Tourette's. Probably picked it up about when I was 7 or 8 years old, probably in the on the playground somewhere. I never heard it in the classrooms, of course, in elementary school.
Was it a swear word?
It's a swear word. It's the N word. And I'm not by any means prejudiced or racist or anything like that. It's just one of those things that have just stuck with me through over the freaking consistent years of my Tourette's. And thank God I've never gotten a fight over that word or anything, or had, people like confront me. I mean, people have kind of, and I'll say, oh, don't mind me, I have Tourette syndrome. You ever heard of that? And they're like, oh yeah, I've heard that. And then I'll say, don't, it's not, like when I first went to my meetings. And I met you, or I saw you. You said you saw me there. And when I first started going to my meetings, when I got up and I said, listen, everyone, I want to let you know that I have Tourette syndrome, otherwise known as Tourette's. And it's an involuntary disorder, verbal words, stuff like that, and motion type tics, physical tics too, and they're not directed towards any particular person in this room.
Yeah, it's not directed
so
at
just
anyone.
ignore me. Okay, that's what I tell people, and I don't mind educating
Everyone's
people.
Cool with it.
Yeah, totally.
And
I don't mind educating people at all when I. I'm trying to stop smoking right now, but I would go into, the local gas station or something and buy a pack of cigarettes and stuff. And somebody would be there and, kind of look at me funny or turn around and, something, whatever it may be.
And then
then I would just explain it to them.
Yeah.
I have no problem doing that.
Yeah,
It's just,
people are understanding.
Like I said, it's in movies and stuff now. It's a lot more well known now than it was way back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And,
you don't get to pick your word.
I don't get to pick my words. No,
it just
it just comes out. Yeah, it's involved. Like I said, it's a neurological. It's not so much when I get nervous I do it or anything. Like I said earlier, I'm a little nervous, but it's not so much when I get nervous I do it or anything. But it just comes and goes.
Right.
And I can kind of. The yells, the bark, not the bark. I don't want to call it barking. I'm not barking, but some people do.
It sounds like you're clearing your throat.
Like that. Well, I do kind of cover it up. I've always just done that. Kind of cover it up with a cough.
Oh.
Just to make me feel better about it, or somebody's, like what? He just coughed or sneezed or something like that. Yeah. But it's just involuntary. It's a dopamine in my brain is too little. So I take medication for it that I've been taking since I've been 5. I've probably been on this current medication the longest now since probably for the past 35 years or so of my life.
Oh, okay.
And I have people say, well, not yes and no, but like I was just going to explain this. People have asked about, does it help, or do you want to get off it? I said, well, I don't know if it really helps too much, but I don't want to take the chance of getting off of it and making it worse.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I hear you. Okay.
So,
cool.
and it just randomly comes, and but actually, I can't sing worth a crap, but I can rap okay. So I love rap music and stuff, but I cannot see me at a NWA concert or a Snoop Dogg or Dr. Dre concert. I don't think so, huh?
You white.
Yeah, I'm white, and I probably would get shot.
Very good.
No.
Okay, I'm very curious. So it sounds like you were pretty well adjusted. And where does the drugs and alcohol come in? I mean, did your parents suffer from any kind of drug or alcohol addiction?
Not my parents, no.
When did you start using?
Well, probably around the time I was able to drive.
Oh, okay. Did you get your license at 16?
Yeah, I did. Right at 16, right on the button.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. A little freedom.
Yeah. So, about 16, high school. And it wasn't real severe. It wasn't, it was just going out to parties and, and just...
That's just what the kids were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People would have, their parents would have, townhouses or in a condo area, and they're like a gated community type thing. Yeah. And they would have rec room, I should say. So I got introduced to alcohol about 16.
Okay. 16.
And as I've seen or heard, I should say, in many of my meetings that I've went to, I've heard a lot of people talk about both parents being alcoholics and abusive and all this kind of stuff. And however, I came from a very loving, caring household. Oh. My dad never smoked a cigarette in his life, never smoked a joint, never drank a beer. The only thing my dad may do on my mom and dad's anniversary was possibly have a sip or two of champagne. But that's it.
That's
you know,
it.
yeah, that's it.
So this wasn't learned behavior. It wasn't in response to. Yeah, I have a similar story. Neither of my parents drank or did drugs or anything like that. But I still found my way through parties and stuff at school. And
Yep.
yeah, that's how it starts.
And my mom's a total normie. I mean, she supports what I'm doing. She even told me. She even said, you know, Jeff, if you don't like, you know, 'cause she has a little wine refrigerator in the home. You don't want me to keep the wine here, me to not drink here at home. I will do that for you.
Oh, it's sweet.
Totally
Yeah.
sweet. And I just, Mom, you don't need.
It's your house.
Yeah, it's your house. But still, at the same time, it's like, you don't have to do that for me. I mean, alcohol is everywhere. I mean, it's in restaurants, and bars. It's
and now weed is everywhere.
Concerts and pot too now. Yeah,
That's
totally,
everywhere.
totally. You know.
That's sweet. So you have a very supportive family.
Absolutely.
Do you have siblings?
No, I don't. I'm an only child.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's nice that your parents are so supportive.
Yeah. Well, my dad not last month, August was 6 years that he passed. So my dad's not around anymore.
Oh.
But my mom, told me early on, and still tells me to this day, I'll stop drinking at home if it makes you feel uncomfortable. Aww. I can't do that to her. She likes her wine when maybe one glass a couple times a week when she gets home from work. Mm-hmm. On the weekend she bakes or cooks, or like right now she's at home making this minestrone soup.
She'll put a little red wine in it.
Probably. I can do that, yeah. I don't know if she will or not. I don't know. But if she does, that's fine. But that's, I don't drink NyQuil or anything, or cough medicine. Yeah. I do take some. I used to take when I got a cold or something. I get it with no alcohol in it, of course. Because if I drank that, I would consider myself a relapse.
Okay.
It's being abstinent from everything.
Right. So it sounds like you started out pretty normally at 16, drinking at parties and stuff. When did it start shifting to being a problem?
Probably when I was introduced to cocaine.
Oh, how old were you?
I was probably 18 or 19.
Okay, so like fairly soon after you started drinking and after high school.
Right. And these were the days, in high school when you got pulled over with beer in your car or some car. The cops would make you sit on the curb and pour out in the gutter. Yeah. You think that happens these days? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think they're a little stricter now.
Right, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But that's way back then. But I was introduced to that, and then that kind of that was fun. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't have drink or drugged unless we liked it, right? We wouldn't have done it unless we liked it.
Absolutely.
It changed the way we felt.
Right.
And
cocaine's expensive. How did you get access to cocaine?
I know it's very expensive. I waited on tables for like 10 years.
Oh, okay.
So I was a waiter, so I made tips.
Oh, sure.
So
lots of cash.
Every day, every night, whatever it may be, I would,
Okay.
And in the restaurant business too, there's a lot of people in the restaurant that actually like to party with you, stuff like that are into that kind of thing because you always have cash on hand.
Right. And they're young and fun, and
exactly.
Restaurant people are a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until alcohol really wasn't an issue so much from 16 on. So I tried Coke. This is, are we just talking alcohol here or kind of thing?
I mean, listen,
all
so
the above?
this is not program at all. So there's really no rules. I try to maintain personal anonymity, but I mean, you can talk about whatever you want.
Okay. And so I got in trouble with the law for cocaine in 1995. 1995. Mm-hmm. Negative. Fuck it. Negative. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
A little trip there.
Arrested?
Yeah, I was arrested. I got busted for having it on me and being under the influence of possession and being under the influence of a controlled substance.
Okay.
You would think that possession would be more of an offense than being under the influence, but it's actually the opposite.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't
being
know
under
that.
the influence of a controlled substance is a felony. And being in possession is just a misdemeanor.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can have it, but you get in trouble if you use it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I was under the, so it was just, one of those talking on the phones back in the day. And, I walked into this motel place, I was meeting my dealer. And there was a cop in the lobby talking with the
clerk
or whatever, yeah. And I went upstairs and... when I came down, he was gone. And then it just like, maybe they heard the phone conversation, where are you at? I'm over here, so-and-so and kind of thing. Okay, I'll be right over. And, so maybe they were, and then when I got pulled over, it's like they were waiting for me to pull out of that parking lot, but it was a different officer than when I walked into the motel or hotel, whatever. So, yeah.
It was a different guy, so they pulled you over.
Yeah, right away. It's like they knew. Somehow they, do the phone or whatever. So, yeah, I got in trouble for that in 95 and went to CA, Cocaine Anonymous, for meetings for about a year and a half or so. Got a sponsor, worked like the first 2 steps kind of thing. And then just for the next, 9 years or so, whatever, did it on sheer willpower alone, on my own. I stopped going to meetings and I stopped using and everything. I didn't drink. I didn't drink. I didn't use anything. Didn't smoke pot. Didn't.
9 years.
10 years total. 10 years total.
Oh, total of 10 years.
Total of 10 years, clean, sober, and then I was at my friend's house in Las Vegas, helping him work on his Harley, his motorcycle, custom bike, in his garage. And he asked me, he said, Jeff, would you mind going to the refrigerator and getting me a beer? Sure, why not? I've done it a million times before.
Right.
And this is after 10 years of being clean and sober. And I went to the fridge, and I didn't grab one, but I grabbed 2. And drank about half the beer and didn't really like the taste or anything, And put it down and poured the rest of it out. And just, after a while, it became a thing where it would just be on vacations, where I would go to see him in Las Vegas, and so for the most part, then it was sermons and became on weekends, or 1 day a weekend, 2 days a weekend, then maybe 3 days a week, and then 4 days, and it became every single day. And then for the first 7 months of Melinda's death, I hit the vodka bottle really, really freaking hard. It was like morning to night, middle of the night. It didn't matter. I would get out. I'd get up in the middle of the night, I wake up, just couldn't sleep. The sweats and all that shit. It was terrible. Yeah.
What did she die of?
I still wear the bracelet. Actually, see here, it says PH is pulmonary hypertension, and that's what this ribbon is on my hat too. I have a lot of bracelets and hats that I wear with the ribbon and stuff. Pulmonary hypertension, or also it could be known as pulmonary arterial hypertension. It's a heart-lung issue. Yeah. That was what it was. And so it basically in turn, she just, I wasn't with her the night she'd passed. We were talking.
It was out of nowhere? Like it was sudden?
No, she was diagnosed with this about a year and 8 months before she passed.
Oh, really?
So she was diagnosed with that.
She was diagnosed.
Yes.
Okay.
And the diagnosis for pulmonary hypertension is something I knew within the past 20 years.
Okay.
So for the last year and 8 months of her life, she was on full-time oxygen with a canola up your nose,
sure.
around your ears, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So she was on full-time oxygen, and I think she just fell asleep. That the night she passed, she fell asleep and just didn't wake up. Didn't get the oxygen she needed to her lungs, or breathing, And she would get out of breath, and she would fall and stuff. It's very sad. But even though it was the first 7 months of her death, I took my alcoholism to its next level.
So really her death sort of sent you into a spiral and you turned to the bottle and...
Yes and no. Yes, it did, but no, I would say for a period of 2 years, even before she was diagnosed, I would drink. This is not my first rodeo through this program, as I just told you. I was clean sober for 10 straight years, then picked up a beer in Las Vegas, and and I don't even like using nasal spray anymore. I don't put anything on my nose. I mean, just don't do it. I don't consider myself recovered. Well, because you're never recovered. You're always recovering. That's what some people get mixed up, because you say, I'm recovered. Oh, no, you're not recovered. You're recovering forgot where we were at. Go ahead. I had a brain
just,
fart there.
It seems to be part of our age. Maybe it's all the drugs we did. We were just talking about that earlier. I'll be like in mid-sentence or, it's one of those things where I'll be standing in a room and I'll walk into another room and I'll be like, why am I here?
Nigga, fuck.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, gotcha.
Where we left off was, so you turned to the bottle for about 7 months after she passed away.
Right, gotcha. So there was a period of time where I would go to an inpatient program or an outpatient program over the course of, because we were together 19 plus years.
Wow, how'd you meet her?
I met her in Los Gatos at Mountain Charlie.
Nice.
And there used to be a cover band that would play in Los Gatos, Mountain Charlie. I think it was every Thursday night or something, called BMOC, called Big Men on Campus. And and I got to know the guys pretty well, and everything after I became clean and sober, and everything. So I got to know them really well. So they would learn some songs, and like I said, I can't sing worth a crap, but I can rap. Okay, I guess, Yeah. So we used to do a bunch of different songs. They learned, they always used to do Red Hot Chili Peppers, So I used to get up and just do that, or Tone Loc's Wild Thing.
Oh, sure.
Or Run DMC and Aerosmith, Walk This Way. I wouldn't do the chorus because I can't sing. So they would sing the high chorus, but I would rap like the Run DMC thing, whatever.
Fun.
And then we would do like Ice Ice Baby, like by Vanilla Ice, Rob, my friend, which I know.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, really cool, down to earth, just way cool cat, man.
Nice.
Very much an entrepreneur, if you've ever seen his
I hear now
show.
he's like flipping houses or
Yeah,
something.
it's on the DIY,
cool.
Do-It-Yourself network.
Yeah, DIY network.
It's called the VIP, Vanilla Ice Project, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you did a bunch of songs and singing.
Yeah,
at
got to know the band. The band learned a few songs, and I would get up on stage probably toward midnight or so, hang out with the band, and at the time I was clean sober, like I said. And I don't know, by me getting up there and rapping, and Melinda with her stepsister going to Mountain Charlie's on the same Thursday, every Thursday they would be there. We just got to know each other and met and just hit it off from day one.
Oh, how sweet.
So we were together 19 plus years, like I said, and people, I consider myself old school. I mean, people just don't do that anymore. People don't even go 19 months without getting a divorce these days,
I've been married 20 years.
Good for you. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
We just celebrated 20 years. Yeah.
But I mean, these days, it's kind of,
I know.
it's rare.
It is.
It's kind of rare.
I know. I feel like I won the lottery.
Yeah, me too.
You too.
I got lucky.
Yeah, you got lucky.
Yeah. I mean, she even did kind of a going away message to me that was recorded on my phone, a video of her with her oxygen in, sitting up on my bed and talking to me.
Yeah.
So
so that you would have something.
Have something. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
and I still have her some voicemails and stuff and that kind of thing. It's really cool. And text messages and things like that. Yeah, it's cool. So I don't watch it too much because it makes me cry.
Of course, but sometimes it's good to cry, right?
But she did that 2 months before she passed. So
she knew it was coming?
Yeah, she knew. We all knew it. Well, it's inevitable. We're all going to pass at some point.
Well, that's true.
But for her, she knew it was coming close. It
was now. Oh, okay.
Yeah, soon.
Okay, so
that's how we met.
That's how you met.
And then after so I met her in November '96. And I guess you could say we became exclusive in like January '97.
Oh, okay.
So. And I got clean sober in 95. So 95 to 2005, I picked up a beer.
Okay. But it didn't sound like it really got out of control until much later.
It did, yes and no. Well, like I said, I went to inpatient program, outpatient program. So I'd be sober within that 9 plus years we were together still. There'd be a year here I go being clean sober, 9, 10, 11 months there. There would be spurts that I would be... clean and sober.
Did she drink at all?
Yeah, she did. She was a total normie.
Oh, she's a normie.
Yeah, but she would, I had my little mini fridge in my room with a little refrigerator for my sodas and stuff, and my little freezer for my vodka. That was embarrassing. And Melinda,
where else would you keep vodka?
Right, exactly, in the freezer.
In the freezer.
So, once in a while she'd have a couple pops with me. She was staying the night or something, and one of my resentments for myself, resentment I have towards myself, is not really being there for her for the last 3 weeks of her life, because alcohol was more important to me, drinking, than being able to drive and go over and see her. Alcohol took precedence over human being, over the love of my life, the one time, the one and only, so.
Do you think it was because you were under so much stress because of her health condition?
Probably that too.
That's
a
like
little bit of that
coping,
too.
Yeah.
Nigga, fuck, shit. Yeah, so yeah, I think that part of it too.
Yeah,
but just to drink, just wanting to drink, and I really didn't like getting buzzed or getting drunk. And I talked to my a while back. I asked my drug and alcohol therapist about this. That since then he's retired, and I say, I don't like, why is that? And he said, because
am I doing this?
Yeah, he says, because you're what they call a maintenance drinker, which is like your body just craves it and needs it throughout the day, whether it's 1 hour, whatever it may be, that kind of thing. Yeah. And for the last 2 years of her life, even though, like I said, she was diagnosed 1 year and 8 months before she passed, I was drinking more and more.
Oh, okay, so it was accelerating.
Yeah, it was accelerating. And then, like I said, the last 7 months, first 7 months of her death, it was just off the charts.
Yeah, no, that's understandable.
I'll wake up in the middle of the night and have a few pops. Like I said, I'd have the sweats. I'd wake up, have a couple cigarettes, try to calm me down, try to go back to sleep if I could. It's like a 24-hour buzz. And like I said, I didn't like the buzz. I didn't like throwing up. I didn't like getting sick. I didn't like falling and bruising and hurting myself and that kind of stuff. Not hurting myself on purpose, just because I couldn't stand up, or whatever.
That's how I drink.
Yeah. And that's how most of us were. So.
But she didn't really have the ability to stop. I mean, that's what alcoholism and drug addiction is about, right? We don't necessarily like it. We lose the choice of
absolutely
whether it's going to happen or
not.
Right.
And it's like, it's the saying says, first you have a drink, and then the drink takes the drink, and then, or the drink takes the man.
The drink takes the man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Melinda passes away, and you dive deeper into the bottle. What happened that you decided to get sober again?
Well, I went to see a drug and alcohol doctor, and did an ultrasound on me and found out that I had cirrhosis of the liver.
Oh, really?
So I kind of forget it,
You didn't care?
I ignored it for like 3 months.
Okay.
And then the next 3 months went by, and I was still just doing my thing. My body was just completely shutting down.
Wow.
And I had a really bad fall on the concrete outside my back there at the house at our home, and must have fallen somehow on the whatever it was, and I had this humongous bruise on my right side, and it was nasty. It was purple. It was just took forever to go away.
Wow.
And I think I even still have a little remnants of
it sounds like internal bleeding. I mean, that's what they
something, yeah.
That's what they say.
But that was one of the last straws too. Was looking at that the next day and going,
"What am I doing?"
Yeah. So after 3 months, that I fell. That night, my mom had to basically, with this little woman, trying to put me into bed, I woke up the next day, didn't have any alcohol in my fridge or my freezer. I was just out. So I made an appointment to see Jerry. We call him Dr. Jerry. We call ourselves Jerry's kids in the program.
He recommends a lot of people to the program.
And so I went in to see him, and he ran some minor tests on me there in his office. And so we need to admit you right now, Jeff. So he called Good Samaritan Hospital, and I went in, and he just basically pumped me full of fluids for like 2.5 days.
Wow.
And the day I got out, my sobriety date is October 19th, 2016, just last year. Okay. So I'm coming up, God willing, no front, 19th of this month I'll have a full year.
Oh, okay,
a
year. Yeah. Right, yeah.
So after that 2.5 days, the 19th, the 21st, it was a Friday, and I went into an all-men's meeting. Dr. Jerry told me he was going to meet me at, and sometimes he does that to his patients. He just took them to the meeting,
Sure, yeah.
I went in and heard, not my story, and still to this day really haven't heard it yet. However, I heard a guy speaking that was chairing the meeting, and really liked what he had to say about sobriety, about his sobriety, about the God word. You know, a lot of people newcomers come in and they get frightened by the word, you know, the word God and everything like that. And I've came to find out too that it's absolutely not a religious program whatsoever. It's not that kind of cult type thing like people talk about and all that kind of stuff. It's a spiritual program, sure, absolutely. Yeah. And you have to find what we call a higher power, whatever it may be, something greater than yourself. You know, like, because the old saying is, AA works for those who believe in God. AA works for those who don't believe in God. AA does not work for those who think they're God.
That's true.
And I am definitely not God or Lord or whoever. So it's a lot of newcomers. I've heard this too get scared off by that word. And he ended up being my sponsor. I talked to him for like an hour and a half after that meeting, and went out to his car, and I got a meeting schedule and showed me which ones he goes to and stuff. And I haven't completed, even though it's coming up on a year that I'll be sober. I haven't finished all 12 steps yet.
It's pretty normal, though.
Yeah, is it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right where you're supposed to be, right? There's really no clock on this, and I don't...
Right, and I've heard stories of people doing all 12 steps with their sponsor in like a month or two. I'm like, and I just think to myself, and I talked to my sponsor about this. He's still my sponsor to this day, and it was like it was meant to be. Yeah. You know, before like my higher power was already working for me when I went to that meeting on that Friday, the 21st of October. Yeah. It was like my higher power was already working for me because it's like we were connected before we were even connected. We have a lot of similarities. We like the same thing: cars, all kinds of dogs. All kinds of different things. We have, a lot in common. Yeah.
Do you feel like that's been the key to your success, is finding someone that you have a lot in common with and then working the steps?
That too, yeah, I believe so. I believe that's a big factor.
And then you do go to a lot of meetings?
I go to at least 5 meetings a week.
And it sounds like you have a good relationship or a good concept of a higher power that you can...
Yeah, yes and no. I'm still trying to really get in touch.
Have that connection.
Exactly.
That can be hard.
Because growing up, my parents weren't, really, every Sunday going to church or anything like that. Maybe, one time a year when I was a kid, up through maybe 7th grade or so, where they go to church like before Thanksgiving
Christmas
or Easter or something like that, or Christmas or something,
Right.
But that was about it. Never really grew up religious or spiritual or anything like that. So
this is something that you're developing.
Correct. And I'm kind of struggling with it because I'm trying to embrace this higher power. I don't do meditation as of yet, but I do pray, and there are times when I go 2 weeks without praying. Getting on my knees or however you want to do it. Everyone has their own way of. You could just be sitting up and closing your eyes and being praying.
Absolutely.
So I'm kind of struggling with trying to really be thoroughly in touch with my higher power.
It's a process, right?
It is. I think it is.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, people doing their steps in a month or two. It's just, I think that's fine if they get completely everything out of it. But with me, I try to keep it fresh by going to my meetings, and all I have to do for my 9th step right now is read the 9th step of my 12 and 12, and then 8 and 9 are done together, and I have to make my amends and that kind of thing. I can count them on one hand, my amends. So it's really not a big list. However, what was I getting older, brain fart kind of thing,
Well, we were talking about, doing the steps, and it sounds like, even though you're still in the process, I think what I would like to share is that, I've been sober for 23 years, but
wow, fantastic.
Yeah, thanks.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But for me, it's been a continual process. Like, I don't anticipate a time where I'll feel like, I don't need to do the steps anymore. I feel like every time I go through it, and I've switched sponsors several times.
Negative. Fucking shit. Yeah. Negative.
I just feel like I'm a different person as I address the steps. Like, the steps change me, and then I'm different. And then the next time I go through the steps, I get something different out of it because I'm different. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And
every time
you grow.
Yeah. So
and I want to be able to soak it all in, make sure it sinks in and resonates with me completely before I start sponsoring anybody.
Oh, okay.
But my sponsor does say too, if a newcomer comes up to you, even if you only have 6 months sober, but you're on that straight path that you're going on, my sponsor tells me at least, you really don't turn anybody down, even if you're not done with your 12 steps yet, because, for a newcomer, whether he's older than you, younger than you, whatever it may be, that may be his or her last shot to getting sober, to staying sober.
Absolutely.
Is resonating something that I had said.
Yeah. It's really about the connection, like you were saying, we don't all connect. And when we do connect, it's important to,
I could be like a temporary sponsor. I could say, man, maybe turn him over onto my sponsor, introduce him to some people and say, I think this person can work out for you really well, or, get to know the kid I'm probably kids. I feel older than I look, all right, whatever.
I hear you.
But, that's what my sponsor says to me about,
very cool.
Sponsorship, that kind of thing, that somebody comes up to you, you just don't turn them away, because you may be their only shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to sponsoring people after I finish completing my 12 steps and having a spiritual awakening. I've had 2 spiritual experiences from Melinda, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me about them.
But they're not spiritual. First I thought they were spiritual awakenings. But they're not. They're spiritual experiences.
Okay.
Is how I'm understanding it from the way my sponsor and my mother talk. Things like that. Well, Melinda was pretty much, not even when she was sick. Melinda had other issues too before she was diagnosed with PH, pulmonary hypertension. She got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a muscle kind of thing where you get really a lot of pain, stuff like that as well. And some other things, which I'm not going to get into on a podcast all over the world. They don't even know about her. But she was ill for a long time too. So Bob Marley, right? The reggae artist that passed away a long, long time ago. He has a song called 3 Little Birds. Okay? And if you know the chorus to the song of 3 Little Birds, and I can't sing very well, but this is how it goes. Baby, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be all right. That song?
That song.
So whenever Melinda would be stressed or upset or maybe having a panic attack or whatever it may be, whether it was on the phone or whether it was in person, I would sing that song, that chorus to her, that song, repeatedly over and over and over again. Whether it was 10 times, 20 times, or maybe even 30 times. It really didn't bother me, I loved her so much, it just didn't matter, and until I just stopped and I said, how do you feel now? And she says, I feel much better. So the last conversation I had with Melinda, she died on March 8th, 2016. And that was a Tuesday. And I remember our last conversation was that Saturday prior, the weekend before. And she was having a hard time dealing with breathing and, stuff like that. And I sang that to her. I remember that, even though I was under the influence at that time, I still remember that was our last conversation, is that
you sing?
I sang that to her, when she was having a hard time. So the spiritual experience I received from her is, I said earlier, I'm trying to quit smoking at the time, but I have this back door to a patio outside my room. I would sit out there on a chair, and I have my ashtray out there and everything, and I would smoke my cigarettes out there. So I would look up on the telephone wires running across, and I look up, and there are 3 little finches, 3 little birds.
Aww.
Name of the song, right?
Yeah.
3 little finches sitting up on the telephone wire. And after about good minute and a half, 2 minutes of them sitting there, 2 of them flew away, and then the other one sat there for maybe another 5 seconds or so, and then took off itself. And that happened to me twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
Aww.
Yeah, but it was just kind of like I recognized it, like she's here, even though I can't see her or touch her or smell her or feel her. She's standing right next to me, and I like to think she's standing right there, right? And I like to think she's standing right there and looking at me proud, of what I've accomplished in the past little over 11 months. Yeah. Because a lot of people have told me a lot over the past 11 months or so that they're very proud of me and stuff like that. And it means a lot. It really does. I mean, not that it's really an ego booster or anything. It just makes me feel good about myself, that I'm accomplishing something that is so difficult to achieve.
It really is.
You know,
it really is.
But working the steps and going through them with a valid sponsor and everything. It's a very simple program. Like my mom says about cooking, because my mom, it's like she should have her own show on Food Network or something.
Yeah.
Me and my friends, we all love her cooking or baking, whatever she does.
Yeah.
My mom's mom used to say to her, "Barbara, if you can read, you can cook." So that's kind of where that's kind of where that fills in.
Well, I gotta tell you, your ability and willingness to do the self-examination, that I feel like when people tell me that they're proud of me, I think they can understand how difficult it is to do the self-examination. It takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. And so
Absolutely,
I think people
I think so.
recognize just how hard it is to do that. So
Right.
yeah, it is definitely something to be proud of. People go their entire lives and never do any self-examination.
Right,
So
I got you. Okay.
it's a big deal. Yeah, very cool. Well, listen, we're coming up on an hour, and I typically end the podcast with sort of my wrap-up question is, since the podcast is called One Day at a Time, how do you stay sober one day at a time, or do you have like a weekly routine that you try to follow?
I don't have a weekly routine because I'm not thinking into that.
You have a daily routine?
Well, not so much. Well, my daily routine is Sunday through Friday is going to meetings.
Do you go to a meeting every day?
Well, I've been missing out on Saturdays for about the past 3 or 4 months now.
Okay.
I said, I'm just kind of getting burnt out on meetings, even though I did my 90 and 90.
Yeah.
And I've still continued to go to 7 meetings a week or more.
That's a lot.
One time each week, or each day, I should say.
Yeah.
But there will be some times, still, there'll be days where I'll go twice a day.
Oh, okay.
But I try to do it 6 days a week is what he told me now for right now. So go to at least 6 meetings a week.
Take a day off.
Yeah, so I've been taking Saturdays off for about 3 or 4 months now.
Okay.
So
it's prayer and maybe not meditation, but prayer, going to meetings.
Right, exactly. Keeping in contact with the people I know in the program and everything like that. It just really helps, and also being in service.
Service.
Yeah. I have a secretary position which I got re-upped. I got reinstated because I was offering, what they call a spirit of rotation.
Sure.
Giving the opportunity for somebody to take my position.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to do it after 2 or 3 months of
Putting
announcing
it
it.
out there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Putting it out there. And nobody wanted to do it. So somebody said, well, I'd like to nominate you. And I got a second, and someone else for everyone agreed. Okay, aye.
Yeah,
we're going to
group
post. I actually wanted to do it for another
That's
6 months
awesome.
at where I'm at.
Yeah.
But with that thing they call spirit of rotation, I have to give the opportunity to someone else to do it.
Sure, yeah. Secretary meeting, that's a...
So this is like my second term, which is really cool
Nice.
because I wanted to do it for another term. But so that worked out really well. But like I say too, it doesn't matter how much time you do have, how little time you have.
Right.
We all just have today.
Absolutely.
And I just have to focus on getting through today. The best I can. Pretty much for me the obsession to drink, the craving, I should say, is gone. The thought's still there. The thought will probably always be there because we're all, like they say, the problems.
Centers in the mind.
Yeah, centers in between our ears and our head. Yeah, exactly. Now I'm trying to tackle this other thing, which is not smoking. Within the first year.
That's big.
Yeah, so I'm trying to tackle that as well.
Yeah.
Which is big for me. I smoked for over 30 years.
Yeah, that's
So,
a long time.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Well, great. Listen, I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast and talking about the Tourette's and all that. I think it, the more we talk about all the different things that we struggle with, that the more it sort of takes the stigma and the shame out of it. So kind of normalizes it. So
Absolutely.
yeah, very cool. Well, listen, thanks again.
Thank you, Arlene. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Good job. Yay!
Thank you. Hey. Right on.